Information has a sort of life of its own. It grows and changes over time, and each stage of growth is marked by an increase in size, complexity, and hopefully reliability. We call this phenomenon the information cycle, and it starts with an event, which can be anything that people care about, like a natural disaster, a new law, or a scientific discovery. Social media is the first stage of the information cycle because that's where people, especially celebrities, first start producing information about an event as they react to it in the minutes and hours after an event occurs, and sometimes a social media post itself can be the event. Social networks prioritize information that produces emotional reactions, especially outrage and disgust, because those strong reactions keep people engaged with the social networks, consuming advertising and sharing personal information, which is how they make their money. In terms of factual accuracy, information at this stage of the cycle is highly unreliable and, in some cases, even designed to mislead. News is the second stage, and that includes print, online, and broadcast. News is produced within hours of an event, and stories are brief, rarely more than a few hundred words or a few minutes long, like this video. News organizations are generally held accountable for the accuracy of their reports, so they check their facts, which makes them much slower than social media, but more trustworthy. Like social media, news can also be a powerful political tool, and some organizations report the news with a political slant. To be confident a news story is accurate, it's best to verify it across multiple organizations. Magazines and increasingly blogs or podcasts are the third stage. These can be print or online and show up in the days and weeks following an event. They use all that time to take the facts from the news and interpret them, often in 1,000 words or more. Why does the event matter? How should we react? That kind of interpretation is one of the main advantages of magazines, but it's also a drawback. Interpretations can be thoughtful and compelling, but they can also be politically biased or just plain wrong. Okay, this is the point where the cycle transitions from somewhat unreliable information created for a popular audience to much more trustworthy information created by scholars. The fourth stage is scholarly journal articles, which apply academic rigor to the topics they analyze and are considered the gold standard of reliable information. They have to pass through a process called peer review, in which experts pick the article apart and demand revisions until they're satisfied. It's punishing to go through, but it gets results. Planning a study, collecting and analyzing data, and surviving peer review takes a lot of time, which is why journal articles start to appear a year or more after an event. They're worth the wait, but because of that academic rigor, journal articles can be difficult for non-experts to figure out. They also tend to examine very narrow aspects of an event, like this. And they're fairly long and detailed, usually 10 or more pages. Books come fifth in the cycle, and out of all the stages, they generally take the longest to produce. Books, spoiler alert, are hundreds of pages long, so they're able to make big, overarching arguments that draw from all stages of the information cycle. They do for the entire cycle what magazines do for the news, but way more thoroughly. They interpret the event and say something thoughtful about it as a whole. Books don't typically undergo peer review, though, so the reliability of the information they contain is actually a bit lower than the previous stage, although the arguments and ideas they contain tend to be a lot more elaborate. So that's the information cycle. If you know where in the cycle a piece of information comes from, you'll be better equipped to understand its relative strengths and weaknesses. That said, when it comes to determining reliability, every piece of information has to be evaluated individually, and a librarian can help you with that.